Welcome to Leading Beyond Limits, the podcast where we explore the extraordinary journeys and insights of remarkable leaders who have pushed the boundaries of what's possible. Your host, Angel Radcliffe, who is a digital transformation leader, author, speaker, and financial educator, will lead each episode and dive deep into the stories, strategies, and philosophies that have empowered these exceptional individuals to lead, inspire, and achieve beyond the ordinary. We're about to embark on a journey of discovery and inspiration, and together, we'll learn what it takes to lead beyond limits. So grab your cape, or at least your favorite coffee mug, because we're about to unravel the extraordinary tales of trailblazers who've turned impossible into I'm possible. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. It is so good to be back in the studio, digging into these stacks of research, finding those little threads, and just seeing where the conversation takes us. We are covering the leadership micro scenarios again.
Specifically from the Leading Beyond Limits series.
Exactly. And I have to say, looking at the state of the world and just the general vibe in workplaces right now, the timing for this specific conversation feels incredibly pointed.
It really is a privilege to unpack this.
Yeah.
What I appreciate about Angel's approach, and specifically the way these scenarios are constructed, is that they aren't interested in letting you off the hook.
Not at all.
They aren't hacks. They aren't, 5 ways to inbox zero.
No, there's no place to hide in these.
Exactly. They are about the psychological weight of sitting in the chair. They address the burden of the role, not just the tasks of the role.
Right. And speaking of weight, we are diving straight into the deep end today. We're looking at a specific scenario from the 52 weeks of high-stakes decisions. The hook for this one is just text. It's an image with, 10 words on it? Yeah, but I'll be honest, when I first read it, it stopped me cold.
It's a heavy one.
The text reads, "You see the problem. Why haven't you solved it?"
Simple, direct, and entirely uncomfortable.
It feels aggressive, doesn't it? My immediate visceral reaction was offensive. I literally felt my shoulders go up.
That's the first response for most of us?
Yeah, I wanted to shout at the paper because I'm busy, or because it's complicated, or, because legal hasn't gotten back to me.
And that defensive flare-up. That is exactly the point. It sounds like an accusation, but if you can strip away that initial ego response, it's actually an invitation.
An invitation to what?
It's asking you to examine a very specific, very painful tension in your leadership. It's getting at the core of refining the decision-maker's edge. It's asking a fundamental question. Why is there a delay?
So just to set the stage for everyone listening, we are here to just sit with that discomfort. We want to explore that specific gap between knowing something is wrong, seeing the problem, and actually doing the terrifying work of fixing it.
Because that gap, that specific distance between the eye and the hand, is where leadership actually lives.
Let's unpack that, because the scenario has this fantastic line that I think frames the whole conversation. It says, "Awareness is the start. Correction is the work."
That distinction is crucial. Awareness is the start. I think in modern corporate culture, and really in organizational life in general, we have started to conflate spotting the issue with leadership.
Oh, I see this constantly. It feels good to spot a problem. It makes you feel smart.
Right.
You walk into a meeting, you look at a process, and you say, hey, this workflow is inefficient, or the culture in this team is slipping, or that marketing copy is weak, and you get a little dopamine hit because you noticed it.
Exactly. You feel like you've contributed value. You've identified the cracks, to use the metaphor from this scenario.
Right.
You think, I'm perceptive, I'm adding value, but the scenario is challenging that sense of accomplishment. It's saying, okay, you see the crack, great, you're at the starting line.
But we often treat the starting line like it's the finish line.
We do.
We post the observation in the Slack channel and wait for applause.
Precisely. And it feels safe to be the observer. The observer gets to critique. The observer gets to analyze. The observer can write a white paper about the problem.
But the observer doesn't have to get their hands dirty.
Never. The moment you move from awareness to correction, you lose your safety. You leave the bleachers and enter the arena.
And that's the gap we're analyzing today. So let's look at the mechanics of this. If we see the crack, let's say it's a process that's burning cash, or a behavior in a high-performing team member that's actually toxic, and we know it's there, what actually stops the movement toward correction?
This is where we have to get psychological. Because usually when you ask a leader, why haven't you solved it? They will give you a logistical answer.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have the budget. I don't have the time. I'm waiting on more data.
The classic resource constraint excuse. It's the polite answer.
It is, but the scenario and the research behind high-stakes decision-making suggests that's rarely the truth. It's usually not a lack of resources. It is a specific type of internal resistance.
So it's the psychology of hesitation.
Yes. We have to look at why the transition from seeing to solving triggers such a strong stop response in the brain. The scenario mentions high-stakes decisions and gray area moments.
Looking at the notes on the scenario, it seems to break down into a few distinct fears. The first one is obviously risk.
Right. Awareness is low risk. If I point out a problem, I'm helpful.
Yeah.
But correction. Correction involves active risk. There's a concept in behavioral economics called omission bias.
Omission bias. Okay, let's unpack that. What does that mean in this context?
It's the tendency to judge harmful actions as worse than equally harmful inactions. So let's say there is a broken workflow.
Okay.
If I try to fix the workflow and I accidentally break it further or cause a delay, I feel responsible. I did something bad.
Right.
But if I just let the broken workflow continue to lose money for another 6 months, I feel less responsible because I didn't do anything. I just let it happen.
That's fascinating and terrifying. So we are wired to prefer the slow bleed of a known problem over the potential acute pain of a failed solution.
Exactly. It's the breaking it fear. As long as the problem just exists, it's an external thing. It's that problem over there.
But the moment I intervene,
The moment I intervene, it becomes my project.
which leads right into the second point, accountability.
Once you touch the problem, you own the outcome. That is a heavy burden. I think a lot of leaders hesitate because they subconsciously know that the minute they intervene, they are on the hook.
It's the you touch it, you buy it rule of management.
That's a good way to put it. It's the difference between pointing at a fire and picking up a hose.
Yeah, if you pick up the hose and the building burns down anyway, people look at you and ask if you used the hose correctly. If you just stand there and yell, fire, you're just a witness.
You're innocent.
You're safe.
And that leads to the third factor, which I think is the most insidious in social hierarchies, visibility. Fixing a problem, especially a systemic one like the cracks in the workflow mentioned, often means challenging the status quo. It might mean upsetting a peer. It might mean having a difficult conversation with a high performer who is toxic but popular.
So solving the problem requires you to spend social capital. It requires you to be visible in a way that is uncomfortable. It's not just about doing the work. It's about being seen disrupting the peace.
And human beings, biologically, we're wired to avoid that kind of social risk. We want to be part of the herd.
Right.
We don't want to be the one standing up saying, this isn't working, and then taking the heat for changing it.
Yeah.
That feels like exile.
So when the scenario asks, why haven't you solved it? It isn't questioning your competency or your intelligence.
Not at all.
It's questioning your willingness to endure that exposure.
Precisely. It asks, are you willing to be uncomfortable?
There's another layer to this that I found really interesting in the scenario. It talks about gray area moments where there is no easy answer, no textbook solution.
This is the burden of certainty, or rather, the addiction to certainty.
Yes. I feel like so many of us, myself included, we wait for 100% certainty before we act. We want the data to be so overwhelming that the decision basically makes itself.
We want a pie chart that says do this.
Yeah, exactly.
We want the decision to be a calculation.
Yeah.
If A plus B equals C, then I'll do C. But here's the hard truth. That's not leadership. That's just math. That's administration.
Ooh. Say more about that distinction, because I think people put data-driven on a pedestal.
Yeah.
We're taught that you shouldn't move without the data.
And being data-informed is great. It's essential even. But if the answer is obvious because the data is perfect, you don't need a leader. You just need a manager or an algorithm to execute the obvious choice. Leadership is specifically for the moments where the answer isn't obvious. It's for when you have maybe 60% of the information, the stakes are high and you still have to move.
So waiting for a textbook answer, as the scenario puts it, is actually a form of hiding.
It's a sophisticated form of hiding. It looks like diligence. I'm just gathering more data. I'm just consulting more stakeholders.
Running another projection.
Right. But often that is just a delay tactic to avoid the risk of deciding. You are hoping the clock runs out.
You're buying time, hoping the problem will solve itself, or, and let's be honest here, hoping someone else will take the hit.
Or hoping that total certainty will arrive and save you from having to use your judgment. But the scenario is clear on this point. Leadership isn't a title you're given. It's the way you decide. It's defined by the act of deciding in the face of ambiguity.
That brings us to this concept of the crucible of conviction. I love that phrasing.
It's intense, right?
Yeah, it sounds almost medieval.
It is powerful. A crucible is a vessel that withstands high heat to purify what's inside. It's where the impurities are burned away.
So if we are stuck in this gap, this paralysis between seeing the problem and solving it, how do we bridge it? The scenario says conviction is the bridge, but let's define that, because conviction can sound a bit like blind faith or just being stubborn.
Right. Conviction here isn't about being loud, and it certainly isn't about arrogance or pretending you know the future.
So it's not bluster.
No. Conviction is the internal mechanism that moves a leader from knowing to doing.
It's not walking into the room and banging the table and saying, my way or the highway.
No. Often it's very quiet. It's about self-trust. The scenario mentions refining the decision-maker's edge. That edge isn't about being smarter than everyone else. It's about the ability to trust your own judgment enough to act, even when you know you might be wrong.
The text says correction is the work. And hearing you say that, it sounds like the work is actually internal before it ever becomes external.
That is the key insight. The work isn't just fixing the spreadsheet or firing the person. That's the execution. The work is the internal wrestling match where you say, I see this. I don't have a guarantee of success. It's going to be messy, but I am willing to be the one who addresses it.
It's presence of mind. It's showing up.
It is presence. It's saying, I am here and I will not look away. You know, we talked about the cracks. Most organizations are full of people stepping over the cracks.
Just walking right over them. Not my department. That was broken when I got here.
That's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
Or I'll fix it next quarter when things slow down. Spoiler alert, things never slow down. Conviction is the quiet voice that says, no, not next quarter, now. And that is a muscle. You don't just wake up one day with that ability. You have to practice it.
Which is why I love that this is framed as 52 weeks of high-stakes decisions. This isn't a one-off thing. You don't just solve one problem and then you're a leader forever.
It's a practice. It's like going to the gym.
Yeah.
It's a discipline. And honestly, it's exhausting.
It has to be.
That's why we started by saying this isn't about productivity hacks. This is about emotional labor. It takes a toll to constantly overcome that omission bias we talked about.
Yeah.
It uses up your glucose.
The scenario asks a specific challenge question that I think is really helpful for anyone feeling overwhelmed by this. Because if you look at all the cracks, you might just want to quit. But it asks, what is one small gap you've been ignoring that you could close today?
Notice the word small.
Yeah, why start small? If we're talking about high-stakes leadership, shouldn't we go for the biggest fire? Shouldn't we tackle the biggest strategic failure?
Not if your decision muscle has atrophied. If you've been hesitating on everything, don't try to restructure the whole company tomorrow. You'll freeze.
Right.
You need to prove to your own brain that you can survive the risk of acting.
So find one crack, one conversation you've been avoiding, one process that is clearly broken but everyone ignores.
And close that gap. Do it today. It's about breaking the paralysis. Every time you bridge the gap between seeing and solving, you refine that decision-maker's edge.
You prove to yourself you can handle the accountability.
You retrain your nervous system that acting is safe.
It reminds me of like exposure therapy. You expose yourself to the fear of being wrong or the fear of conflict in small doses until it doesn't paralyze you anymore.
Exactly. You build a tolerance for the heat of the crucible. And eventually you stop looking for the textbook answer and you start trusting your own navigation.
So for the listener right now, we warned you, there were no tactics today. There is no framework.
If you're looking for a flowchart or an acronym to memorize, you're in the wrong deep dive. This isn't that kind of episode.
But there is a so what here. And I think the so what is an invitation to pause and audit your own hesitation.
Yes. Don't rush to the next podcast. Don't rush to your next meeting. The application here is awareness of your own hesitation.
It's about noticing that somatic marker, that feeling in your stomach when you look at a certain project or a certain person on your team, that tightening feeling.
That desire to look at your phone instead of the problem.
Yeah.
That's the gap. That feeling is the gap. And instead of pushing it down or distracting yourself with busy work, the invitation is to ask, why am I hesitating?
Right.
Is it truly a lack of information? Or is it a lack of courage?
Awareness is only the starting line. That line is going to stick with me. I think I've been patting myself on the back for awareness for way too long.
We all have.
I've been proud of being the guy who sees everything.
We all do. It's human nature. It feeds the ego.
Yeah.
But leadership is about transcending that nature. It's about the willingness to step into the mess and own the result.
Usually we try to wrap things up with a nice summary or a key takeaway, a nice little bow on top. But today, frankly, that feels wrong.
It would be a disservice to the scenario. If we gave you a neat conclusion, we'd be solving the problem for you. We'd be letting you off the hook.
And we definitely don't want to do that. So instead of a conclusion, we are just going to leave you with the question. We want you to really think about that one crack in your workflow or your life that you identified while we were talking. You know the one.
You absolutely know the one. The one you just thought of and then immediately tried to push away.
That's the one. Just sit with the question from the scenario. You see the problem. Why haven't you solved it?
And don't answer it immediately with an excuse. Just let it sit. Let it be uncomfortable.
And hey, this is heavy stuff, and it's better discussed in community. So I want to explicitly invite you to go to Angel's LinkedIn page. Join the conversation there about the scenario.
And don't just post solutions. I'd love to see people sharing the experience of the tension itself. What does that hesitation feel like for you? That's where the real learning happens.
Exactly. Share the struggle, not just the success.
That's where the courage is.
Thank you so much for diving deep with us today. Remember, the gap is there, but you don't have to stay on the starting line.
Correction is the work.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning into another inspiring episode of Leading Beyond Limits. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to hear more from our incredible guests, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us. And if you have a remarkable leader in mind who you'd like to hear on our show or any questions and comments, feel free to reach out to us. You can find our contact information in the show notes. Remember, leadership knows no bounds, and with the right insights and determination, you too can lead beyond limits. Until next time, keep reaching for the stars and leading with purpose.
Hey y'all, it's Kelly Clarkson with Wayfair, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. Picture this. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app when you spot it. A brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's room of choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.